It is my great pleasure to welcome you to Accra and to this conference of African freedom fighters and supporters of the growing movement for Africa's liberation and unity. It is good for our cause to have a periodic meeting of this kind to examine our position in the great struggle to rid Africa completely and forever of imperialism and its handmaidens, colonialism and neocolonialism. Africa is rich and not poor. As the great wealth that has been taken out of our continent over 5 centuries of spoliation and extortion very well proves. Africa has immense actual and potential wealth: gold, diamond, copper, manganese, bauxite, iron ore, uranium, asbestos, chrome, cobalt, a host of other minerals. Our essential agricultural produce have all been drained away by colonialist imperialism. Africa is far from being poor. It is Africans who are poor, not Africa. And they are poor because of the uncounted profit that has been made out of the exploitation of their labor and their lands. If we are being baited to enter a European community, we must have something that community needs, and needs badly, when it pretends to offer a bonus by way of aid. When Greeks come bearing grapes, should we not look them well in the mouth, if I may mix my metaphor? But I'm sure you get my meaning. I raise this point so that it will stay in your minds when you may be tempted by the seductive promises of new colonialism to forget the real character of colonialist imperialism and be persuaded away from your own true interests and those of Africa. For today, we must each see ourselves as part of Africa in order that we may face colonialist imperialism and its new form, neocolonialism, on a continent-wide front. This requires some plain speaking. And for the sake of Africa, let us speak plainly. As I see it, our greatest danger stems from disunity and the inability to see that the realization of our hopes and aspirations, the realization of our objective of total African independence, and of our future progress and prosperity is inextricably bound up with the necessity to unify our policy and actions in connection with the continued struggle for independence and the greater task of economic and social reconstruction beyond it. We must therefore face the issue of African unity now, for only unity will make the artificial boundaries and regional demarcations imposed by colonialism obsolete and superfluous. African unity will thus provide an effective remedy for border disputes and internecine troubles. In a united Africa, there could be no frontier claims between Ethiopia and Somalia, or between Zanzibar and Kenya, Guinea or Liberia, or between Ghana, Togoland, and the Ivory Coast. Because we would regard ourselves as one great continental family of nations. Some of the leaders, it must be confessed, do not see the struggle of their brother Africans as part of their own struggle. Even if they did, they would not be free to express their solidarity. These rifts are consciously created by the imperialists between the Africans, where they can sit back and watch with sly satisfaction, as well as contempt for those who fail to see how they are being used against Africa's best interests. Regrettably, those states include some who were among the freedom fighters of yesterday and who haven't won their independence, are willing to drop it for some token aid and thereby deny to those still struggling for freedom even their moral support. Here is a phenomenon against which all African freedom fighters must be on their guard and resist to the utmost. Even though I appreciate the difficulties facing us, I must admit, I find it strange to watch some of us returning willingly to the colonialist fold. This time, they don't even have the excuse of being forced to subject themselves to foreign domination. It makes one wonder why so much effort and sacrifice and so many lives were given up to the achievement of independence in the first place, if it can only be so quickly and easily surrendered. We must begin to build immediately our own continental common market. For it is easy for anyone who studies the common market organization closely to realize that the common market is aimed at harnessing the African countries to satisfy the profit lust of the imperialist bloc and to prevent us from following an independent neutralist policy. It is easy to see that the imperialists and the colonialists are determined to retain the African countries in the position of suppliers of cheap raw materials. If we do not resist this threat, and if we throw in our lot with the common market, we shall doom the economy of Africa to a state of perpetual subjection to the economy of Western Europe. This will, of course, hinder the industrialization of our young African states. It is impossible to think of economic development and national independence without possessing an unfettered capacity for maintaining a strong industrial power. The activities of the common market are therefore fraught with dangerous political and economic consequences for the independent African states. The organization constitutes an attempt to replace the old system of colonial exploitation by a new system of collective colonialism, which will be stronger and more dangerous than the old evils we are striving to liquidate from our continent. This is another reason why we should come together in a unified African economic plan, which, operating on a continental scale, can make a solid attack.
Well, a very good morning to you. It's a holiday morning. The 21st was when? Some 2 days ago, today being the 23rd, we're marking that holiday, Nkrumah Memorial Day. Our sincere apologies to you for the late start, some technical glitches this morning, but here we are, kickstarting the AM show, like we always do. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and shortly, well, we'll be serving you the news, followed by the news review, and then sports after that. And then we come back into the studio for our main discussions. Now, first on the chopping board, the man Nkrumah. You see him behind me, dressed in all his glory, all his majesty. How many years on, we still celebrate the founder of our nation, Nkrumah Memorial Day. We'll be telling you a lot about him as we engage the CPP's candidate for the 2024 elections, Frimpong Nkrumah. She'll be joining us on the show, and we'll delve into myriad issues. But then from there, we'll look at the Affirmative Action Law. The president has given his assent to that bill. What are the dynamics? How is this going to shape the woman in Ghana? What are the positives? Are there any drawbacks? And how can women tap into this new law to ensure maybe not just equality, but equity at high levels? We'll be bringing you that conversation. And finally, on the AM show, we'll take a look at the End Galamsey Now industrial action, if you want to call it that, or demonstration, because there have been varying sides. Some are saying we're laying down our tools and joining them. Others have hit the streets. Yesterday, going to church was quite a hurdle because there were so many blockades. It took much more time. Today, we'll take you on the ground, find out what the demonstrators have been up to, what you can expect. And what is your take, by the way, on this demonstration? Stop Galamsey Now. All of that action coming to you on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akako. Do stay. We'll be right back with the news. Welcome aboard the News Belt. In our first story, Democracy Hub, organizers of the Stop Galamsey Now and Reoccupy Julobi House protests, are demanding the immediate release of an 8-year-old girl and 15 others who say they are currently in police custody. Now, more than 10 protesters have been arrested following a scuffle with the police. Attempts by the demonstrators to continue day 2 of their protest at the 37 roundabout were thwarted by the police. Let's listen to some of the frustrated protesters after their arrests.
Article 12 and 13 of the Convention on Children's Rights. Article 12, which is on the respect for children's views, states that every child has the right to express their views on matters that affect them, and for these views to be taken into consideration. So if our water bodies are being destroyed and these children come out to join a protest to express these, is it a crime for which they should be arrested? This is question for the authorities to answer. Question for the police service to answer, to respond to. Article 13, which is on the freedom of expression, states that every child has the right to find out and distribute information and to express their ideas through talking, writing, art, and any other form of expression. Is it a crime for these children to express themselves in these forms? It is for our authorities. We have seen the police trying to play PR on all that is happening, releasing press statements upon press statements. We will want them to address one of these, if they want to, in one of the statements. And in one of those statements, they have indicated that they are looking for Oliver, that he's on the run. Oliver is not on the run. Oliver is here. If they want, they will see him. We are actually ready with our lawyers to come with him to wherever they will designate us to present him. But there is a caveat that they will release these children. These children are innocent. They don't have any problem with the state. They were only expressing their fundamental human rights.
You say these children, how many children were arrested?
It is two of them. It is 2 of them, but one has been released. So we're left with 1 of them actually. But the very fact that these 2 were picked up is very, very improper.
And what's happening to the others who are arrested?
We have no idea where the other child is as we speak now. The police has refused to even disclose where they are being kept, for whatever reason best known to themselves. So if they release these children, we are happy to come with our lawyers, with Oliver, to wherever they will designate to us.
Now, the convener for Fix the Country movement and member of Democracy Hub, Oliver Barker-Vomawo, was rushed to the Joy FM premises to seek refuge after he fled from the protest grounds.
As many Ghanaians would have seen today, the police have descended upon demonstrators at the grounds, persons who have been demonstrating from yesterday peacefully. The police have refused to engage with us and now have set upon, first of all, they've towed away our public address systems and they've set themselves upon the protesters, brutalizing and arresting. And in particular, in my case, several hundred of them tried to arrest me and I was able to get away and come to the studios of Joy on a motorbike.
Why this sudden change of approach?
We don't know. Since morning, we wrote a letter to the Ghana Police Service, particularly because when we woke up, they had released a statement at 3 a.m. signaling their intention to use force against protesters. We replied to the press statement they issued and wrote an urgent letter. We called the Greater Accra Regional Police Commander, Ahin. We called the Greater Accra Police Regional Lawyer, Bani. We have written to the Inspector General of Police. We've demanded an urgent meeting at 10 a.m. They reverted to say that they are not interested in dialogue at this point. So at this point, the institution itself is not interested in a conversation with organizers in order to ensure that the demonstration continues to proceed peacefully. Now, we don't know where this change in approach and direction is coming from. They have shown every deal with the conversation around stopping galamsey and creating accountability around that. And we're using this medium. The reason why I've come to Joy straight from the grounds is that we're using this medium to appeal to all those civil society organizations. And there are several hundreds of them that have released statements calling for urgent action on this issue. This is not a fix the country fight. This is not a few young people's fight. This is for all of us. And it is not enough to continue to sit and use the same old discarded approaches. Writing letters do not work. We must engage seriously in the process of mobilizing young people, mobilizing our community to become participants in the conversation. We cannot take an elite-driven approach to this issue. Every Ghanaian must feel implicated and involved in order to stand forth and speak forth. Now, we are taking this approach in order to ensure that many young people can also show that in addition to the written approaches, there must be an integrated, a more sustainable, and a community-driven approach in bringing everybody behind this call. So it is not enough to segregate ourselves into various caucuses. And if it's an individual or with anybody else we are organizing with, remember that the environment is not my responsibility or those of us who are standing here. It is all of us our responsibility. And so if we say we care about this, we cannot sit aloof and watch as young people are being brutalized by our Ghana Police Service. Individuals who have failed us in the fight against stopping our waters being poisoned. I do not understand how many more audios, how many more documentaries Joy has to produce for us to draw attention to this issue. It is not enough anymore to sit on the sidelines. We must speak and we must engage this issue now.
So are you saying that despite the police, changing approach, the demonstration is still ongoing? Our
resolve is that the demonstration is going to continue. And if they continue to frustrate us, we'll go beyond the 3 days that we notify them of. Because this is not an issue where we're going to sit silent and watch our water bodies being destroyed. While people continue to mine in forest reserves. This is not the Ghana we envisage in this project. This is not what our fathers dreamed of. And it's our responsibility not to let them down. This is why we must speak up.
Now, the running mate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, has called on the National Union of Ghana Students to use their collective voice to push for policies that promote sustainable mining and protect Ghana's natural resources. Addressing the union at its 58th Annual Congress in Kumasi, Dr. Prempeh emphasized the need for students to hold politicians accountable for their actions. Nana Boachi Adam has more in this report.
The National Union of Ghana Students held its 58th Congress at the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, where Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh addressed the gathering. In his keynote speech, the former Minister of Education lamented the devastating effects of illegal mining on Ghana's environment, economy, and communities. Stressing on the destruction of water bodies, he called for a more collaborative efforts from all stakeholders, including government, civil society, and student unions.
One of the most topical conversations as we head into the 2024 elections, whether you like it or not, the preacher man said it, or one of the speakers said it. It's galamsey. Nooks, we should hear from Nooks. You must have an enlightened position on it. Like I told the men's fellowship, as politicians, no politician will come up with a policy that will let him lose the votes of the people he wants to represent. After all, like my good friend Trump says, he doesn't like martyrs because they are dead. You should succeed in your advocacy. MPP, should rebirth itself through Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to continue those policies that will benefit all. As long as we all have the feeling, as long as the last tree dies, the last man dies. We believe that. If we believe that, and we believe that water is life, I'm not against mining. I'm 100% pro-mining. God gave the gold for us to use it to enhance our value, our lives. But the gold, God put it down there. And God wants us to use the gold to enhance our lives. So that we have to have responsible mining.
According to Dr. Opoku Prempeh, NUCs must call on politicians to sign a pact which will hold them accountable for their actions.
Union leaders have come on board, CSOs have come on board, NUCs should not stay. But let us publicly, just like we do a peace agreement here during elections, let all the political parties come up and sign that we all don't want Galamsey, so that nobody can go and take advantage anywhere else. So that one person will not come and sign, President, I've signed. Then the person who wants to take the president out of the office goes around the country and say, hey, of course, he will win the vote.
The 58th Congress of NUCs brought together students from various tertiary institutions across Ghana to discuss pressing national issues and chart a course for the country's development. Chairman Opon Daniel is president of NUCs.
If our education is politicized, if you don't have a proper plan for education, trust you me, there will not be any future for us as young people, as we say in the popular session that the future belongs to the youth. It will never belong to us if not a clear roadmap when it comes to education. And I want to assure all of you, we continuously sit back, and when we are supposed to contribute our sharp ideas, because always tokenism is too much. We feel the young ones, when you are brought to the table, you have nothing good to offer. Please, young ones, success only comes when preparation meets opportunity. Until you realize you are an ego, you continue to dine with the chicks on the ground. Okay. We are ego, but we don't know we are egos. We are still dining on the grounds. Let us prove a point to the world that we are capable, and the young leaders will bring us up. They will add us to their campaigns, they will add us to their ministries, and then we'll contribute our ideas in making sure Ghana becomes better.
For Joy News, Nana Boache Dankwe Yadom, Kumasi.
Well, on our next story, the journey to Nkrumah First Memorial Day is observed to honor Ghana's first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Now, NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama reaffirmed his commitment to restoring Dr. Nkrumah's rightful place in Ghana's history. Speaking as the special guest, Mr. Mahama emphasized the need to correct distortions in Ghana's history and honor Nkrumah's legacy.
Nkrumah's legacy extends far beyond only infrastructure. His ideals of African unity, social justice, and economic independence are still pillars that guide progressive forces and thought across the African continent. Today, we are reminded with deep sadness that the work Nkrumah started is not completed. The future Nkrumah envisioned, a prosperous, united Africa free from exploitation, still calls progressives across this continent to action. The liberation struggle is not over yet. Mr. Chairman, Nana Chairman, my brothers and sisters, history cannot be revised. No matter how you fill our children's textbooks with different versions of your history, Founders Day must be a day that recognizes Nkrumah, the leader who delivered independence to Ghana and whose vision was continental in scope. The next NDC government, inshallah, in January 2025, will seek to remove the distortions in our history and restore Kwame Nkrumah to his rightful place in the history of Ghana.
Meanwhile, the chief of Nkrumah, Nana Kwesi Kutua V, made an appeal to the NDC flag bearer to prioritize the Elembele district if he became president.
Myself, is Nzima really part of Ghana? Now, this is a district which possesses our oil, but the road network linking Samene to Hafasni is in a deplorable state. Now, the road network from Telekubukazo to Takwa Junction is in deplorable state. His Excellency, we are appealing to you. Nzima deserve better. We deserve better. We need good roads. We need hospitals. As I'm talking to you, Nkrumah, as the birthplace of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, cannot boast of a modern hospital. Don't we deserve a modern hospital? Don't we deserve a modern hospital in Nkrumah? We do deserve a modern hospital. Because this man has really fought very hard for our independence.
And that's how we cap off the news this holiday morning. But do stay with us. The news review is right up next. We'll be right back. Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Before we get into the news review, the Energy Commission and the Ministry of Energy, in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service and the Ghana TVET Service, present the 5th edition of the Energy Commission's Senior High School Renewable Energy Challenge. Now, this challenge aims at developing the research skills of senior high school students and promoting technological innovation in renewable energy. Competing fiercely in this thrilling competition are the following schools: Obwase SHTS, St. James Seminary SHS, Ola Girls SHS, Ahantaman Girls SHS, Bando SHS, and Dabokba Technical Institute. We invite you to join us for the grand finale on Tuesday, the 8th of October 2024 at the Accra International Conference Center. You can catch the live broadcast on Joy News at 9 a.m. This event is proudly supported by GIZ, Ashesi University, the French Development Agency, and the VRA. Well, time now for us to get into our news review. And this morning, I'm the Lone Ranger, the sole soldier, holding it down in the studio. Wherever you are, thank you for joining the conversation. And especially on a morning like this, as we mark Nkrumah Memorial Day, what in the past we would have celebrated as Founders Day with an R''S, which I still mark as Founders Day. It's a choice for me. We also will be commemorating the legacy of the Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But what are your thoughts on his legacy, especially in these times, especially with everything that has happened over the last 7 to 8 years? And you know why I'm saying that? I'm not being political. I'm talking about the attacks on his persona and on his legacy like we've never seen before, from textbooks to everything in between. What is your take on that man behind me, the Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, especially vis-a-vis where we find ourselves currently as a country? You can share your thoughts with me via the live feed as we contemplate Nkrumah and his legacy. But being a holiday, you know how we do it. One matter that is very curious for me, how our newspapers especially go to sleep once it's a holiday. I find it a bit striking because in other jurisdictions, it doesn't necessarily happen that way. Yes, there's a lot of online content now, newspapers going online, but in other jurisdictions I've been in holidays, on holidays, they don't necessarily just go off, you know. So it's a bit striking for me that every time there's a holiday in Ghana, that's it. Everybody goes to sleep, no newspapers. But Maybe because not too many people will be in town and not too many people will purchase, but maybe that is why our newspapers should be more online focused when it comes to holidays. So that on holidays, people can access whatever you want and pay for it. There should be a system of payment, whether mobile money or something, via some online portal, free consultancy for our newspapers, because this holiday, no newspaper thing, it be some way. But let's get to the online portals, myjoyonline.com. Later, we'll go to Daily Graphic online. And then we'll also check out maybe the BBC online portal. But let's start from myjoyonline.com. I know what has to be done to halt the daily food price increments. That's according to former President Mahama. Police initiate manhunt for Democracy Hub leader Oliver Barker-Vormawor and others. Then, Chief Justice angered by acts of manipulation by court staff. And then there is also the astrological symbolism of ballot numbers, a look into Ghana's presidential elections. All of these stories there for our deliberations. Okay. So let's start from the very start. I'm going to start from, I know what has to be done to hold the daily food price increments. So former President and National Democratic Congress flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, has expressed confidence in his ability to tackle the escalating food prices and other economic challenges facing the country. Now, in a post on X on Sunday, September 22nd, Mr. Mahama assured Ghanaians that he had a clear plan towards addressing the daily increments in food prices which had burdened households across the country. So the former president attributed the rising cost of food and basic commodities to poor economic management under the current government, stressing that immediate and decisive interventions were needed. He stressed that his previous experience as president had equipped him with the knowledge and understanding required to reverse the current economic downturn and stabilize the food market. He went on to outline that his approach would focus on boosting agricultural productivity, improving access to affordable inputs for farmers, and strengthening domestic food supply chains to mitigate inflationary pressures. He also pledged to implement broader economic policies aimed at reducing the cost of living, improving livelihoods, and creating sustainable jobs for the youth. But I ask, the former president is saying this. We've experienced a bit of him as president on some of these matters. What can we take away from that? Was it rosy for us back then? That's one thing to contemplate. And I am always skeptical nowadays when I hear people, especially with some of these promises. I know what has to be done to hold the daily food price increments. This administration, for example, some of the things that former President Mahama talks about in agriculture and others, they have tried a few things that have failed woefully. So I take some of these comments from political actors with a pinch of salt, a grain of salt, because wait, unless I see it, honestly nowadays that's the way I've become, very skeptical. Unless I see it in real life, I get very skeptical. What has this administration, for example, not told us that they would do? But look at where we are. If you watched the news, you would have seen Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, the running mate of the MPP, talking about Galamsey and everything in between. What has his administration, what have they not promised us? With the president himself putting his presidency on the line. Yet where are we? So for me, I get a bit skeptical. I'm not saying it's not doable, but for me, I'm skeptical about some of these. But that's to do with former President Mahama. Let's get into this other story. We were talking about the Stop Galamsey Now and Reoccupy Julobi House demonstration. And yesterday I was mentioning that it was quite a situation if you were going to use anywhere around the 37 enclave or heading to the lands commission or connecting into cantonments, it was pretty problematic, right? But the police have initiated a manhunt for Democracy Hub leader Oliver Barker-Vormawor and some others. We know that, according to Oliver himself, that 8-year-old, some have said 10 years, but that 8-year-old, together with 15 others, apprehended. And I've heard so many stories, by the way, that whole bit about the young girl being taken along, whether she was also under arrest, that child was also under arrest, or that person was merely taken into custody because her relative had been apprehended, and so that person was taken into custody. There's a bit of nuance there. It leaves you scratching your head a bit about police and the protocols they observe, because think of that for a young, a child, basically, being bundled into whatever by the police, psychologically. I don't know. I don't know what mechanisms we have in place on that, but it's a bit troubling as far as I am concerned. But if you go to that story, the Ghana Police Service has confirmed the arrest of several members of the Democracy Hub group for engaging in illegal activities during a demonstration at the 37 roundabout in Accra. Let me pause there. What were they doing? Yes, you blocked the road. It created huge traffic. That was not cool. That was not cool. I mean, the fact that you are expressing sentiments that some others may, express as well, does not mean you should block the entirety of. I know how these things have happened. I've seen Nigeria and other countries. I've seen Kenya. But I don't think it was in the best of taste. But then they've also said that, look, these attempts at foiling demonstrations, whether it emanates from the executive, after all, the Ghana Police Service is part of the executive branch of government, right? The executive arm of government. Menkashe, I'm merely stating what is obvious. The penchant, so to speak, of the Ghana Police Service to, oh, these people want to demonstrate, let's run to court, injunction. They have complained about that, but some of their activities as well, I felt, were in poor taste. Blocking the road and playing football. Really? Really? Now, the protesters were accused of blocking roads, dismantling police barriers, and causing significant disruptions to traffic in the area. In an official statement, the police disclosed that they had launched a manhunt for Oliver Barker-Vormawor, Oliver Abreu, one of the leaders of the protest, along with others involved in acts of lawlessness. The demonstration, which initially focused on the economic situation in the country, later took on anti-galamsey, that is an illegal mining theme. Now, in widely circulated videos, Oliver Barker-Vormawor is seen taking a key from a police vehicle and throwing it away before fleeing the scene. So then another video actually shows him toppling police barricades without provocation, further escalating tensions between the protesters and law enforcement. The police have vowed to bring all those responsible for the disruption to justice, urging the public to assist in locating Oliver Barker-Vormawor and other individuals involved in the protest. All right, so that's the story there. I don't know what your take is on that bit, because I still am struggling to understand some of the actions that were taken by some of the demonstrators. I mean, if you're going to do some of these things, try to stay within the remit of the law. After all, you have the right, the constitutional right to demonstrate. Yes, I know that constitutional right is being frustrated through the state's apparatus, and it's clear for everybody to see, but I feel that when you demonstrate and you show certain maturity, then over time, it will stymie the efforts, it will fetter, tie the hands of some of these forces that always try to, oh, they want to go on demonstration, oh, they want to be violent. Because when you go on demonstrations and do this, then those very parties can latch on to it and say, oh, these people, they are always violent. Oh, these people, they will go and create, traffic situations or congestion, vehicular congestion. Do you see how it is used to funnel back against the exercise of our legitimate rights. Which is why I always say that if you're going to demonstrate, just ensure that you stick to the rules. Stick to the rules. And another thing, I feel the Ghana Police Service is too happy going to court sometimes when it concerns. Look, even the White House, they picket at the White House. Though, of course, you will not be allowed, and of course, you must put it into context, to get within the precincts, the main precincts of the White House. But I've seen people picket the White House, Washington, D.C., the surrounding areas. Here, you'll be told security zone. You can't even get within, from the Revolution Arc or area, the monument, right? Christ the King is there. On the other side, you have the Jubilee House, among others. I feel our politicians are too protected in this country. Far too protected. It's not to say expose them to anything, but in other jurisdictions, even the ones that our leaders claim to emulate, leaders are not insulated like this, cocooned in some sort of safety. And that is also part of why they are able to do a lot of nonsense and get away with it, because they have a certain cocoon they are in. You can't touch them. Leaders sometimes must feel the anger, the angst, the suffering, the annoyance of the people. Sometimes it's not about the person doing anything to you. No person should be allowed to visit any evil on any leader, physically or whatever, in whatever means. But I'm saying sometimes people simply want to pour out their grievances, and that is it. Allow them to pour out their grievances and then calm down so that the tensions don't escalate further. But if you slap someone and the person wants to shout, "Why did you slap me?" and then you put a muzzle on the person so that they can't even shout, "Why did you slap me?" It's like adding insult to injury, and who knows what could emanate from that. That's my thinking. But please, demonstrators, violence has never won anything, or excessive actions have never led to anything. I know some people will be watching trying to misquote me. I'm not saying that any of those things, those actions are right. But I'm saying there seems to be this penchant as well by our police service, sometimes unnecessarily. Allow people to exercise their natural, well, maybe not natural, their constitutional, because there are natural rights that sometimes feed into our constitutions, but not everything is a natural right. But allow people to exercise their constitutional rights. Let them. It's interesting how in the past we had some of the biggest demonstrations in the 90s, Kumi Preko, CMA Preko, VMA Preko, all of those, and people were allowed to go on. Of course, there was the infamous, those incidents when the Let My Vote Count Alliance also hit the streets and some people were affected. I believe that was where Gabi, and I stand corrected if memory doesn't serve, was given a slap or something of the sort. All those things were in very bad taste, very poor taste. Someone lost an eye, and we've seen that in subsequent demonstrations. In this administration as well. Go back, I just one after a demonstration I had covered around, what's that place called? Obra Spot in Circle. You had someone, eye gouged out, stone throwing and all of that. We can do without these things. Then there is Chief Justice angered by acts of manipulation by court staff. I want to quickly get into that matter. So Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokolo has expressed serious concerns about the handling of land litigation cases by some staff members within the judicial service, accusing them of exploiting the system for personal gain. Now, she revealed that some court officials have been manipulating land documents in favor of specific individuals in exchange for bribes, undermining the integrity of the judiciary. Justice Tokonu made these remarks during a meeting with judicial service staff in Cape Coast as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Judicial Service Staff Association. She called for immediate action to stop these unethical practices, urging the staff to uphold higher standards of public service and work diligently to change the public's negative perception of corruption within the judiciary. She also mentions that these unlawful activities contribute significantly to delays in the justice delivery system, causing frustration and hardship for those seeking legal redress. So that's another interesting story to look at. And of course, on the back of number 12, that expose by Anas Arimeyaw Anas and other things that have followed, it has thrown quite a light on the actions of the third arm of government, right? But I feel it is sometimes unfair to paint the entirety of the judiciary with a certain black paintbrush, because there are so many of them who are doing a fantastic job. Everywhere you would have bad nuts. The question, I guess, is how many bad nuts there are. Because while there are very good ones, very ethical ones, there are also those who, unfortunately, do not stick to the tenets, not just members of the bar, but members of the bench as well. I mean, I'm not saying it. The exposés and others have shown it in the past, and now the judicial service at large. So it is, I believe, a good call that the Chief Justice is, putting this out. Let me also look at this bit about the astrological symbolism of ballot numbers, a look into Ghana's presidential elections. Now, why I'm just taking a quick look at this, it is interesting because in the balloting, a few days ago, I found so many things curious. The EC, Dr. Bosman Asari, sat here on Saturday on Newsfile and spoke about some of these things. Kofi Adams was sitting right there. Dr. Pumpuni was next to him, and they spoke about some of these issues. But I asked myself, why do some things, or can some things simply not be handled in a professional manner, or be handled in such a way that nobody will have reason to ask questions? So you pick from the bowl, you're supposed to show the number you've picked, and then you go and sit down. So somebody picks, somebody here being Kofi Akpalu of the LPG picks, does not show, go down. Supposedly, there's a switch of the number one that he's picked to some other person. Supposedly. And the story goes on, and there's hue and cry. And then even for the independent candidates, they are not added to the main one, so they have to be separated and so start from a specific number. So you would have an Alan Kwadwo Chamartin Asieho at the bottom at number 13. I don't know what your take is. My take, I was scratching my head and in a way just laughing a bit about how chaotic our system can be, because on the spur of the moment, certain actions were taken by the Electoral Commission. How well planned was that? I don't know. In the end, it reflects on everything. But let's get to this astrological symbolism, because all of a sudden we are hearing about the number one, and then especially the number 8, the number 1, number 8, and people saying, then it means the 8 is not going to be broken, or the 8 now, people can't campaign on it. Others are saying number 1, that's the number to work with. Well, we can look at some of them. If you look at number 1 per this story, the number 1 is associated with new beginnings, initiative, and leadership. It's connected to the sun, the center of our solar system, which symbolizes life, vitality, and self-expression. By choosing number 1, the MPP may be astrologically aligned with energies of fresh starts, innovation, and dynamic leadership. So let's look at that for a bit. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is trying to start a new chapter for the NPP. He has been in this government, but as, like he said, a driver's mate. So he wants to be the driver himself. Could the number 1 bode a fresh start under him? Could it bode innovation? He's been talking a lot about digital and IT and everything in between. And he says he's the kind of leader Ghana needs. Dynamic leadership, only time will tell. Then you come to number 8. It is associated with transformation, power, and intensity in astrology. It's connected to the 8th sign of the zodiac, Scorpio, which deals with deep connections, shared resources, and regeneration. Mind you, the NDC's leader has been talking about pushing the restart button and transformation. By choosing the number 8, the NDC may be astrologically aligned with energies of transformation, resilience, and deep connections. This could be interpreted as a desire to delve into the root of issues, transforming existing structures, and fostering intimate connections with the Ghanaian people. So there's a lot there. The number 13, Alan Kojo Chebrating, the number 13, though in the United States is usually, it's a bit unpopular, right? You know, in some places, not just the United States, they don't have a 13th floor. They usually wouldn't do certain things on the 13th day of the month and all of that because of certain superstitious tendencies or beliefs. I don't believe in those things. Every day is a good day. Some people will say 6 and 666 are Masa. All of those were created by God. I don't really pay attention to those. But these are astrological, meanings and symbolism. I don't know what it means for you. You can share your thoughts on what it means for you as far as these numbers are concerned, and what it means for the campaign of these parties. Let me see whether I can do one more story from myjoyonline.com, and then we'll go to Graphic Online, and then maybe look at a bit of the BBC. There's this story: democracy has failed to meet the aspirations of many Ghanaians. That's according to the Speaker of Parliament. Investors will pull out if we don't fix Galamsey. The Chamber of Mines CEO is warning that investors will pull out if we don't fix Galamsey. But then, let's look at this one briefly, because this gentleman has spoken. He says small-scale mining needs on-the-ground solutions, not just policies. Suleimanu Kone has been speaking. He is CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, and he has outlined practical solutions to fix the issues plaguing small-scale mining. And he stresses the need for more structured supervision within the small-scale mining sector, pointing out that many current practices are ad hoc and lack transparency. But he's also the same person who recently was saying that if we were to stop, I believe small-scale mining en masse, maybe if we had done that, the dollar-CD ratio would have been what? Higher than where we are now, up to about 21 or 25. I stand corrected. I found it a bit interesting. He may have a bit of a point, but that also suggests that we must let go of this and let things go on as they are, simply because our currency could be impacted. No one wants the currency to be impacted, no. Because where we are already, I mean, only God knows how business people are able to bring things into the country and all that. And with its ripple effects, and if you look at the taxes, the tax component, go out there and buy anything. 15% VAT, NHIL 2.5%, another 2.5%, 1% here, and all of that. It's crazy. But I've just been cogitating, thinking through some of what he says, and I don't know. Where do we stand? We don't want the cedi to depreciate further. But the cedi's depreciation, is it merely on the back of some of these? Is it not because of our own woeful policies that have brought us here? And wanton borrowing, of course. We have to address those issues. And now, Galamsey is also on the forefoot, right? It's so sad when I contemplate it, and you see these Democracy Hub also, going on that trajectory, because, like I said the other day, and some people did not understand and were writing all kinds of messages which lack reflection. Ghana may be the biggest producer of gold in Africa, but we are not the biggest when it comes to resources, gold resource reserves, okay? We are 8th in Africa. In fact, we have just about 8.1 tons, if memory serves. Algeria and the others have, I think, over 100 tons of gold. And they are there. And the little we have, we are riding on the back of biggest producer. What people don't know is that we are one of the least when it comes to reserves. So we are mining without thinking, mining, going for it. Yes, we are finding some new spots, like in Bongo. And please don't start doing any galamsey there, please. We are destroying our cocoa resources. And already look at where we've fallen. One of the lowest in this Fourth Republic in terms of cocoa production. Partly on the back of galamsey. Major contributing factor. We are depleting our gold resources as though there were no tomorrow. We are destroying our cash crop, main cash crop, cocoa, and all of this is happening. So in the middle of it, how do we resolve it? Let small-scale mining go on, some of them also engaging in illegal practices, because yes, some of the small-scale miners, I'm not saying all of them, some have even been caught engaging in things they shouldn't before in the past. So it's a very tricky situation, but I guess we'll have to see how things go. I remember there was this chief in recent times who was talking about the fact that he would want the president to effectively and efficiently tackle galamsey, put some measures in motion before he leaves office. Time will tell whether that can be done. Let's go to Graphic Online now. That's my next stop. Hassan Ayariga promises a 5,000 Ghana cedi minimum salary. Of course, the launch of the manifesto of that party in recent days. And the presidential candidate of the All People's Congress, Hassan Ayariga, on Sunday night launched his manifesto to outline his vision for Ghana and why Ghanaians should vote for him on December 7, 2024. Dubbed the nation's manifesto, the manifesto is based on the mantra, transforming Ghana and restoring hope. It appears a lot of people are seeking to transform, aren't they? Now, the event took place at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, and he says the NDC stole the 24-hour economy from the APC. He's saying that as well, though we do know that that policy was in the 2020 manifesto of the party. That is the NDC. But let the politicians play their own games. That one, we don't care. He is the latest presidential candidate to launch his manifesto after the EC cleared him and 12 others to contest the 2024 presidential election. And according to the vice presidential candidate of the APC, Samuel Walanyo Mensah, the APC introduced the policy as far back as 2016. All right. Then there's emergency evacuation at Quota International Airport, and also the story about the police launching a manhunt for Oliver Mause Baka Vomawo. And Elizabeth Sam unveiled as Kofi Akpaloo of LPG's vice presidential candidate. Let's see whether we can just take some headlines from the BBC, and then we can call it a wrap as far as this review is concerned. And it's still ongoing. You do know about that offensive. Israel tells people in Lebanon to move from Hezbollah targets as extensive strikes begin. There was that initial strike which somewhat surprised the Israelis as far as, you know, the Iron Dome or its security measures are concerned. Then there was the pager explosions, which also exposed on the Hezbollah side many vulnerabilities. Many people died in those skirmishes. And now it appears there's some escalation. The UN Secretary General, I should say, actually, has expressed concern about some of these developments and how they could escalate, developing into some sort of regional tussle. We know about Hezbollah and its support from Iran, and we also know about Israel and what has happened on the back of those attacks over a year ago, in the month of October, I believe. It's so interesting how these dynamics are playing out across the world. Russia, Ukraine, there's Sudan, something many people don't talk about. Even Ethiopia in a very maybe minimal way. And there's also this Gaza situation that seems to be escalating. God save our world, really. But this is how we're going to draw the curtains on the news review for this morning. I see some of the comments coming through, and I laugh sometimes. You can go ahead and use your data however you feel. It's your right as a Ghanaian to do that. It's interesting how some of these party foot soldiers on both ends, sometimes they will not even listen to the full length of what you've said. They will listen to a little part and go, ah, and then another one will come and listen to another part and go, hey, without even reflecting on what you're saying. I always say that for young people in this country, I feel really sad because a lot are either not thinking through issues, they are so polarized by the politics that they can't see beyond their political noses. They are not thinking. And I'm saying this very respectfully. Go out there, speak to people, young people. Some people, ask them why they'll vote for the NDC, why they'll vote for the MPP. Some of the things they will tell you will shock you. And you ask yourself, are we sensitized enough towards why we should even vote for politicians? Do we have the right expectations? Do we know what the Constitution says we deserve as Ghanaians? You'll have some I'll swallow that word, sending in comments. And on the other end, some of them too, because they are boot-licking foot soldiers. Anything from this side is right. Anything from that side is wrong. For others, anything from this side is right. Anything from that side is wrong. Once we continue like that, success as a country will elude us because we will never be able to rally around the red, gold, green, and black and do the right thing. It will always be politics ad infinitum, politics ad nauseum. And what will that lead to? The politicians will play ping pong with us and in the end, dump us like they've always done. But I guess the choice is in your hands and mine. So let's choose wisely. This message comes through it says, happy birthday, my beautiful wife, Mrs. Janet Amevo Vuegbolo. Thank you for being my pillar through my difficult moments. As you celebrate another milestone, may heaven favor you in Jesus' name. It's from your husband, Pastor Jonas Vuegbolo. And I'm going to do that again, so I know he would probably want to film it. Yes, he's right here in the studio with me. So I'm going to repeat it. Happy birthday, my beautiful wife, Mrs. Janet Amevo Vuegbolo. Thank you for being my pillar through my difficult moments. As you celebrate another milestone, may heaven favor you in Jesus' name. And it's from your husband, Pastor Jonas Vuegbolo. And that's that. I also just had a bird whisper into my ears that our very own Seth Kwame Boateng celebrated his birthday in recent days. A belated happy birthday to you, my brother. God bless and keep you. Before we go, hello Ghana, your favorite radio stations are back on a tune in. I'm talking about Joy FM, Love FM, Adom FM, Inshira FM, among others. But guess what? I'll tell you a lot more about them after the break as we gear up for sports. Do stay. Thank you very much for staying with us right here on the AM show. Now, on this holiday commemorating the legacy of Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we sit down with the flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Nana Frimpoma Kumankuma, on the AM show. And she is Nana Kosia Frimpoma Kumankuma. Okay, is that the full thing?
Yes, Nana Akusia Frimpoma Sapon Nkrumah. But
Okay, there's Sapon after the Frimpoma.
Yes.
Okay.
The Nkrumah, the Sapon and the Nkrumah goes together.
Okay. Tell us a bit about your name and the different dynamics. I'm just curious. Nana Akusia Frimpoma Sapon
Nkrumah. Okay. The truth is that I grew up as Sapon. My father is Sapon Nkrumah.
Okay, so it's hyphenated. That's
yes, because it looks like every Sapon. I can't say it, man. Every Sapon is also Nkrumah. But usually it's such a heavy name that it's not carried. Okay. When I was in school, I used to be teased by that name, you know.
So you dropped it a bit, eh?
However, the Nana Frimpoma is my stool name. Okay. It's the name that I took when it's my grandmother's name. So as a Jan Twahima, I became the Frimpoma, Nana Frimpoma. Now, as a politician, I combine the two. Okay. So I'm Nana Frimpoma Sapon Nkrumah. That's the...
Okay. Interesting explanation to the name. Well, let's get into some salient matters. We'll definitely be talking about this man.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get there, this is Nkrumah's Ghana. A few days ago, a demonstration was started, Stop Galamsey Now, Reoccupy Jolobi House. I just want to tease your thoughts on, I don't know how much you've seen of it, but the purported injunction, and then the people say, no, it is our constitutional right and we'll hit the streets. Then some tussles with the police, at a point blocking roads, playing football. But people also saying, why don't you just let them express their sentiments? Why this penchant for always injunction by the Ghana Police Service? And the latest, some people apprehended, including supposedly young children. I'm still not clear whether these children were taken along with the police simply because, oh, we've arrested your relative, your older relative, so you come along because these are children, mind you. But what do you make of all those dynamics in recent days? Today is supposed to be the last day of that demonstration. Yesterday, they were prevented, so to speak, from embarking on it. What do you think in terms of our democracy? What picture does this paint?
I really don't. Thanks for the opportunity, though. I think everybody should have a right to express themselves. And it is very important for people in government to understand that the state of the nation as we have it today, when young people want to get onto the streets, they want to go out there to voice out their frustration, the police is only to guide so that it doesn't get out of control. But they should not be stopped, because it's all part of strengthening the democracy that we have today. And it is in doing that that we can actually vent the frustration and maybe stop other people from taking over. Because when people really can find ways and means of expressing themselves, it's easy some sort of tension away. I think the police system, the security system, must find ways of sitting down with the demonstrators at any point in time and agree on a few things instead of making it confrontational. Once it becomes, I won't let you do it, it's not right, or that kind of thing, then people seem to fight back. And let me tell the young people out there who are always wanting to demonstrate, that's why I keep telling you, come and take over, come join the CPP. One of the best ways to demonstrate is through the power of the tongue. Just make the people understand that enough is enough and that you really will not go out just because you don't like Party A, you always go for Party B. 16 years of each governance, we know exactly where Ghana is. And that is the level of frustration today, genuinely meant, is why CPP should be there. And that's why we've opened our doors. And that is why, if you listen to our policies and you look at what we are bringing in place, it is clearly to give power back to the youth, give ownership back to the youth, give them the power so that they can now, instead of demonstrating, be able to demonstrate their abilities. demonstrate their capabilities, demonstrate who they are, their integrity and their strength. Because without that, if it's just always trying to fight the system, yes, we might get our way, but we will not necessarily make any impact for the next generation. So for me, I've always believed that in addition to demonstrating, you must demonstrate who you are by being part of the system that makes the decision. Part of the decision-making system.
I am curious. I would have saved this for later, but because of what you've said, let me just bring it up. Why can't, and I know some of you resist the tag smaller parties, but you are small now compared to the NDC and the MPP, who are the mainstays in the Fourth Republic. If you go to the US, it's the Republicans and the Democrats, the Tea Party, the other parties, you can say, but you're still small. You talk about that seismic change that could bring some sanity to our politics. And I ask myself, why can't you, the smaller parties, band together and possibly wrest power from this, duopoly we're experiencing? But we have the answers, don't we? Selfishness. Everybody wants to be the top shot. Imagine if you joined Alan Tremante, joined Mahama Yariga, joined all the other stalwarts. George Chumberumedu, who's going as a presidential candidate, independent. Imagine if all of you came together and said, enough is enough. Can you imagine whoever is bringing 20,000 votes, whoever is bringing 200,000 votes, whoever is bringing 1 million votes, all of you coming together, and then people realizing, okay, we have one block alternative to these two. Why can't we do that?
I agree with you. And for me, I've always been ready for that. Here is the truth, though. If you mention names like Alan Shamatin and other parties, why not MPP and NDC? It is not that, and I always say, it's not that MPP, Nanado, or Bawumia is evil or bad people, or our own dear father, Mahama, is a bad person. We all know they are very nice people. You understand? That is not the issue. Neither is it the ministers. It is the ideology. It is the policies that they put in place. It is for what they represent. That makes all the difference. So for us, CPP, it is not just about joining a party. Otherwise, most of us would have joined the bigger parties. We believe in Ghana. We believe in the youth of this nation. We believe that Ghana must work. And it must work to justify the struggle that our fathers went through to be able to bring back our independence and our freedom back to us. So it is not just trying to get into power for me. It is trying to get into power to do what is right for the people. And that is where I find my problem. Today, as I sit here, if there is any measure with any party, and they say, Nana Frimpoma, we know that these are the things that you believe in that would make Ghana work under your administration. However, we think that let's come together and let's use this person to be the leader. 1,000%, because what did our father Kufuor say? He says it is better for your party to be a security personnel in your government, a party that has government, than for a party in opposition. And for CUP, we've been in opposition like forever. So, but however, it is not the time for us to say that because we want to be in power, would align or associate with anybody just because the person. So it is not necessarily being selfish or trying to be greedy. No. It is about the principles for which we stand for. It is about the things that we believe in. It's about what it is that we can do to really save this country. Listen, today, that's why I said the government should allow the demonstrations to go on, but just to be guided, because the level of frustration in the country today, the level, please listen to me. When you are up there, sometimes you don't get to know and understand what is happening. Ghanaian youth are struggling. When you employ somebody, and that person, you are paying even 2,000, and especially those that went on these national service, you are giving them less than 800 Ghana. Their transport is about 50 Ghana. Where is lunch? It's not enough for them.
Per day?
Per day. Where is lunch? Lunch is not now, is a minimum of 15 Ghana. If you buy kenke and fish. If you buy kenke and fish or gobe or whatever, it's not enough. So the level that what we are discussing here is not something that we should just take for granted. So for me, I am sitting here today with the spirit of Osagifo simply because CPP is committed to tell the youth of Ghana, you are frustrated, we understand. We are with you. This is Ghana. You are not the future, the Ghana of today. Go ahead, use your thumb and take over power. Our government is talking about bringing ownership back to you. We believe in bringing ownership back to the Ghanaian again. Yes, the foreigners must come in here. We are a global world. We need to bring foreigners and foreign investors. But the foreign investors must come to partner with Ghanaians. They must not come to take ownership. The foreign investors should not go to Medina markets and start to build a mall where the market women now are completely displaced. The foreign, we would make it so the market woman can now own that mall and be part of it. So we are bringing ownership with our structures back to government, not just as rhetoric, because we have what we call the Ghana Bashers, which I'm sure we'll get there. The Ghana Bashers and the government at your doorsteps. These two combination means that wherever anybody walks to vote, wherever you go to vote, listen to me, would now become your government center. If you are going to vote for number 7, remember that once you are voting for number 7, you'll be voting for yourself. Because that will be your government center. That is where you'd go for all the concerns, for everything that you need to talk to government. And the people who will be running that center are the local people within that unit area. We already have the system. Local government. We will not centralize government. We will localize government within your area. And it is the local government within that place that you are, which becomes the government center. That is where you'd have access to the funding. Every Ghanaian, every single Ghanaian in here will be given 20,000 Ghana cedis as your shares. It is not money that you are going to take and put in your pocket, but it's money that will give you rights to the businesses and the state farms and the state enterprises. It's not going to be now government fully owned state enterprise. It will be the partnership between government and the citizens, but will you be empowered so that by the time we demolished and we closed down the Galamsey, you'll still be empowered to own the mines. The gold would still belong to you. We will not close down the Galamsey and give the gold out to foreigners to come and run and mine the gold. No way. You own the gold, we would empower you. If 1,000 of you decide that you are going to go into gold mining, it means that you have access to 20 million Ghana cedis. And 20 million Ghana cedis.
20,000 Ghana cedis or 20 million Ghana?
20 million.
Because a short while ago, I heard you say 20.
20,000. But because it's more of an allocation, it's not money that you just put in your pocket. It's an allocation, so it's a shares. That is what it's called Ghana Bashers. So that 1,000 youth can then decide to go into a mining project. And that 1,000 youth now would have access to 20 million Ghana cedis. You understand? So with that 20 million Ghana cedis, they can now bring in all the equipment, get all the licensing, and be able to operate and own the gold. And be able to operate so that if they need to expand, then that corporation will now be able to talk to their gentleman from Australia who now has the $50 million or 500 million to partner with them.
I'm curious, this 20,000 to 20 million thing, at least, is it just for those who want to engage in mining, or is it every Ghanaian? 20
million Ghanaians. So we are talking about...
So 20,000 for 20
400 billion.
Ghanaians.
400 billion Ghana cedis. I was saying it in dollars, confusing people. Okay. 400 billion Ghana cedis. is what we put into the human capital, not into major infrastructure.
So let's just break.
Look at how much you owe already.
All right, 20,000
how much do you owe?
Ghana cedis.
20,000 Ghana cedis.
By 2 million.
No.
Or 20 million.
20 million.
All right. So that gives us
400 billion. Yes.
Ghana cedis.
About half of what we already owe by nothing. Listen.
So let's just divide this by even 16, right?
16.
So pegging it to the dollar.
Oh,
so that will give you what? $25 billion.
No, if you peg it to 16, that makes it okay.
No, I'm just using an average.
Okay, 25 billion.
I'm not making it exactly.
No, I understand
I'm just
you
using
now.
an average.
Yes.
That'll be $25 billion.
Yes.
That you're projecting.
Precisely.
We're struggling as a country to pay even $3 billion.
Absolutely.
We've had to go to the IMF.
Thank you. There will be no more IMF. Absolutely not.
There will be no more IMF.
No. Do you know why?
The IMF deal. As for the IMF, it did.
But do you know
we're a member of the World Bank Group and the IMF and all of that. So these things, once you have the wahala, you call on them and they will come your way. It's just that they will not solve the problems for you.
Thank you. So you don't. How come we create the wahala? The wahala, is it because we don't have economic people? We do have gurus. We create the wahala because of our economic order and structure. We have over 85% informal sector and only 10% formal sector. In terms of public debt, in terms of how much we pay, the government pays for the public servants, it's less than 5%, yet almost 60% plus of the money collected goes to pay for that. And so all the world developed countries have their formal sector 85% plus. All the underdeveloped countries have the informal sector 85% plus. The informal sector is the woman selling on the street, myself, I'm sure the woman, the hawker, the farmers, about 60% of us are farmers. All these people are informal. As long as you have that economic structure still on and you don't make any conscious effort to change them into cooperative and enterprises and to corporations so that they are formalized in a structure, so that you have the data, be able to pay them well, get them insurance packages, get them affordable housing, know who is employed, who is not employed. That is why we are bringing governors to your doorsteps. The moment we finish voting, where you went to vote will now become your government center. How many young people today are not employed who go there to find employment? How many young who gave birth to a paralyzed person will go there to be dated? Who is farming what will be there? Because under our policy, we are going to bring back the state farms and all the state things, but we are doing it differently because now the Ghanaian private sector wants to feel ownership. And state things do not have the connection. There's a disconnect between us and public owning property. So we are making it a joint private sector and public sector. And so what we are doing now is that we are giving you shares so that everybody, we will fade out the poverty in this country by empowering every Ghanaian to be able to dream. Young people who have ideas, who don't have the money, like what we did with the one district, one factory. The idea was that we're going to build factories in every district. But when you come up with a policy, with your plan, you went through a secretariat that approved you, but you were supposed to go back to the bank, and the bank then would ask you for collateral and everything you don't have. However, in our system, what we are saying is that you have a good idea that would require 1 million Ghana cedis. No problem. Government is not going to give you the 1 million Ghana cedis because you are not the only Ghanaian. However, government will tell you, put that idea together, find in this case, 50 young people or old people, paralyzed people. It doesn't matter. If the person is a Ghanaian, the person is entitled. Find them to buy into that idea. Some of them would work with you, some of them would not work with you. As long as they buy into that idea, you have the 1 million to put up that institution. And now we know that there are shareholders who would make sure that the funds are working and that business will succeed. That is all that it is.
I have a few thoughts to share with you briefly, and then we'll move on to other matters. I know you are of Nkrumah's stock, and we know, I mean, he would say we face neither east nor west, we face forward. But at a point, he became more close to, the Soviet Union, among others. I do not know. I've lived in Cuba before. Some of what you say sounds a bit socialist. But let's leave that aside.
But we are socialist.
Well, most of the time, your policies don't really reflect that. But we have a district assembly system already running. You're talking about where you go and vote now becomes your government center, whether it is your polling station or whatever. It sounds a bit convoluted to me because we already have a district assemblies system. Wouldn't this just be another duplication of a system? We have a system. Why are you duplicating the system?
Thank you.
Just a quick response on that.
Thank you. I used to do a program on Metro, and I can bring it to you to show. I brought 3 district assembly, what do you call them? Unit committee, whatever. Okay. Let me tell you, we have the best district assembly system. We have the best decentralization system. In fact, I think we've even won an award. But these very people, I want Joy FM, please go out there, do me a very simple survey. You'd realize that 99% of the unit committee members do not even know what they have been voted for. What I'm telling you is simply saying that I will put in place and ensure that decentralization works. You see the institutions that have failed.
So why not put in place measures that will ensure that whether it's the NCC involved or whatever, they get to appreciate fully what they are supposed to do and let the system operate as it ought to, rather than try to create an entirely new system?
No, it's not an entirely new system. I'm just calling it a different name.
Yeah, but that's how it always starts.
No. It's not. No, I'm just telling you, I don't need to go for any approval. It's already there. There's no need for any. It's already a policy in place. I'm calling it the district, like in my village. That is where we have the unit committee person that has been voted for. All of these people have been voted for, but it's not working. Where the debt in my community, opposite my house in East Legon, is a heap of sand and stone. Now the grass there is taller than the forest. It's been there for 1.5 years. I don't know who to call and who to complain to. The district, as the unit committee governance center, is the only system that is going to make sure that we know how many young people are unemployed. We have policies that we are going to put in place. We are not going to leave it at the ministry. We are going to rather have the ministers at each committee would have 10 workers at each committee center. And these workers will have the workers in GRA, in health sector, in making sure that the properties are not built in the wrong places. Everything that is making your neighborhood not work will now be handled at that unit committee area called the government at your doorsteps. So government at your doorsteps means that whatever you want, just as we would have wanted to be on a system, now means that it's coming to a central location. And you and I know clearly that when something comes there, by the time the girl is finished talking, she has not even answered you. We are bringing governance to the doorstep. Whether you need to get your passport, you need anything you need to do, whether it's your business registration, even the woman who is going to sell the wache or sell near the gutter now will be handled, because those people that will be running that unit office within that community would all be held responsible every 2 years to know that your system is working.
Some would tell you that the system you're proposing is only going to breed further corruption. But let me land.
Please, that system
let me land.
Okay.
You can add your other your answer to the other bit.
Okay.
I also want you to I want you to clarify for me. You see, the sum of money that you just mentioned, though you say you are not necessarily taking it out of government's coffers to give to people, 20,000 by 20 million. It is almost 8.5 times more than the $3 billion we're getting, we're getting from the IMF. I just want a better understanding of that. So when you're done addressing this issue of it being a fertile ground for corruption, this government center system, please address that for me. My viewers want to understand properly which component will come from government, how will we fund it? And you've spoken about, oh, they come together, maybe 1,000, then that person comes from Australia. It's easier said than done. So first on that, and then get to the bit about the money for me.
Now, when you're building in a neighborhood, and we always see, what do they read right there? This property, something. I've forgotten what they always write on that property thing. And yet that building will complete. And when they finish, they'll come
stop work by AMA, by KMA.
It's always happening. And then when they finish, they will come and write even on the wall after the building has been completed. Listen, corruption is because there's no face to it and there's no accountability to it and nobody's being held responsible. When you have a neighborhood where every property has been put into a registry, I'm talking about data, properly structured system. It's not just sitting there and making data and people going out, coming to my community to come and arrest me. I'm talking about members of that community. And within that system that we are putting in place is an AI that takes information and gives alert and makes sure that whatever has been computed or been put in there is being looked at. We are talking about ethics, equity, and innovation as the three major pillars as we move on into this election. So, if you don't put a system that has to be put in place, then you can talk about corruption. Now, corruption simply means money that is meant for a particular purpose has not been used for that purpose, and accountability did not come on, and people were not held accountable, and your parliamentarian, your minister, your technocrat in the ministry ended up building a house in your neighborhood, and you know that this is not coming from any salary, and yet nothing is going to happen. Because you can walk to the government center, you can now walk there to make complaints. Because you can walk to the government center, you can now walk there to be able to say your mind and say anything. Why it's not a rhetoric is because you cannot put a system in place for people to work and vote for you, and yet put a system that is distant from them to work and be able to have access to the governance. Government by the people, of the people, for the people, by the people. Or government of the people, by the people, for the people. That democracy is what we are bringing back to the nation. We are bringing back that democracy. Anything outside that is going to just be corruption and talk. But if you bring it to this local center, they know what's going on. They know the boys who they are working with now. When she starts building, they know that his salary is not going to be able to build that. So they go in there and they put a complaint. And that complaint that is put in there is now going to be powered by an AI. So you cannot erase it. Once the complaint is taken, it goes to the right department and it comes back. So that one, I would say that when you decentralize and you localize anything, it makes it easier to manage.
Okay.
So that for corruption, it will be handled at that level.
Let's talk money.
Now.
Briefly.
Okay.
We've already spoken about
yes,
it. I just
please.
Want you to...
Can we go back to money? Can you tell me how much Ghana owes right now? How much money do you claim, did they say is missing in our coffers that we can't find people who...
I don't know about missing and can't find, but our debt stock is north of 500...
Over 40 billion.
Yes, if you're putting it into dollar terms. Right.
Yes. So... where is money? First, you must have an idea. You must have a vision. When you first have a vision, then you create the money. All the money going to waste will be blocked. I have a system that will block all the money. It was approved by...
What system is that?
It's called the phone receipt. It was already approved. Phone receipt.
Phone receipt?
Yeah. It was already approved by government under the Mahama's regime. After 2 years of scrutinization, after 2 years, you can call people like Fifi Quota and all the people who are at the office of the president under the economic office of the president. Yes, you can call them. I have a system. That system, they approved it and said it should be piloted. It went to GRA, and that is where it ended. Because if that system was approved, we would have, by 3 years' time, nobody will get up and you can bring your goods from the port. Don't even pay 1 cent. The system will find out. It was already approved. So it will be implemented. That's why I put the word innovation. We will use innovation. If we can't use innovation to run the country, and whilst I'm sitting here, somebody is watching me in any part of the world now. Look at what Joy News can do now. If I don't even watch the news today, I can go there next week and I'll see exactly what was done. That is innovation. We would use that, not resources here. Listen to me. We would use it to ensure that the country is working. What is necessary is to have a major commitment and obsession. My obsession is for the youth of this nation. My obsession is to ensure that we bring meaning to the legacy of Osajifo. Not just by saying that Osajifo did this and that. Let's implement his policies. He had 7-year policy. We did 3 years and gave you a Kosombo Dam. We gave you the motorway and almost 400 factories. And yet it was truncated. 4 years was left. We'll come back and complete that. And within these 7 years, the 4 years that we would come in, we would realize that Ghana would work. Listen,
okay.
NPP has had 16 years. NDC has had 16 years. 32 years. 32 years in this fourth republic of nothing but frustration. More young people are leaving this country than before. More of our young people are going in capsizing boats, walking through deserts. Now, they're even giving them visa to go through the main entry. It's before they can take care of themselves. We need to bring it back. How else are we going to do it? Are we going to do it by going back to the same 2 people that have not worked for the past 16 years? What is the definition of insanity? The definition of insanity is to continue to do the very same thing and expect a different result. Okay. Let's do something different. And what is the different thing? Only one person is going to make that difference. You. Don't let anybody tell you that we don't have numbers. Who has the numbers? You add the numbers to MPP and NDC. Not let anybody tell you. Okay. When you put the numbers there, when you vote, it is your numbers. And we are bringing the government to you at your polling station. Government is not going to be at the Jubilee House. Or the ministries.
Let me find out about this. You've still not been able to tell me about the money, so let's move on.
Okay, let me.
No. Let's move on. Time is fast.
Okay, let me just tell you.
If you would have answered that question, you would have by now. I want to find out from
the money is there.
I want to find out from you. The money is there.
It's there.
You remind me of. You remind me of. Let's not go into the money. We don't have enough time. You beat lawyer Frimpong Anochi, who really felt he would get the nod. But now that you've done so, you are heading into an election with all of these other candidates. What is the essence? What is the major thing that the CPP is hoping to write on to assume the presidency or to gain the vote of the people?
The truth, but
just straight to the point.
Yeah, nothing but the truth and the truth only. We are going to give back Ghana to GMI. We are giving back the country back to the youth. Ownership. Every day I wake up, and I'm being honest with you, and I see a new China mall, and I see all these big supermarkets that not one Ghanaian owns. I weep. Now, almost all the big shops.
But do you know the ownership structure of our malls, though?
Oh, maybe 1 or 2. Just 1 or 2.
Well, I do know that some Ghanaians have been big players, but in recent times, there have been some developments. But if you go back to the history of it, there has been some large Ghanaian stake, whether in Accra or Kumasi.
Yeah,
but in recent times, we know of some purchases that have happened and all of that. So I think it should be put into that proper perspective.
Every corner of Ashanti and Tamale, everywhere now is having a mall. And those malls are not owned by us. Every shop now you want to buy any property, it's so expensive in Ghana because people can now enter Ghana and buy anything they want to buy. All this galamsey that we are talking about, the equipment that came in, it could have easily been structured if we were focusing on ownership. We will not speak nothing if Ghanaians can't own. I trust in the Ghanaian. I trust in the ingenuity and the creativity of the Ghanaian. We would put everything we have in human capital. We would hold infrastructural development. That is where you want the money to come from. I need more time to discuss that one. Infrastructural, yeah, don't worry. Infrastructural development. How much should we put in the second airport? The airport that we did, that has made the first airport become a cemetery. How much should we put there?
Which airports are you referencing?
The Ghana, the Accra airport, the main one.
Okay.
Beautiful, great.
Quota International.
Yes, but the first one that we all used to travel on, it's now basically like a cemetery, okay? That amount of money, they will tell you it's a BOT. BOT doesn't mean nothing. It still also means that money that would have come to a Ghanaian is now going outside and going back in dollars. Listen, what we are going to end up doing is to empower you to own Ghana. Money is not, poverty is wealth creation. It's not necessarily sharing. I'm not talking about sharing everything that we have here. The Ghana Bus shares, it's not about sharing money to everybody you see on the street. No, it is about taking the informal sector to a structured formal sector so that we fade out the women who are carrying pots on their head, so that we fade out market women who are selling in mud for the past 60 years since I was a baby. We will stop that.
Okay.
We would send everybody is going to own something. It's ownership.
Having a stake in Ghana.
In Ghana.
The final thing I want us to look at before you go has to do with Nkrumah. I did promise that we would talk about him. What do you think his legacy really is, especially on the back of some of the attacks that have, whether in terms of syllabi, curricula, and then political elements? Is there a deliberate effort to erode his contributions to Ghana? That'll be the final point.
Absolutely.
You have about 2 minutes to elaborate
Absolutely. on it. Clearly, everything. Where is even the money with Nkrumah's name on? The last time somebody in my office, a whole lawyer, didn't know that when they talk about the Big Six, it wasn't the people who stood on the podium with Otiko when he was declaring the independence. People have confused that. They think that is the Big Six. And he didn't know that. We want to erode his legacy. And it can't happen. When we put on the...
When you say a lawyer from your office, whom are you referring to?
No, somebody else. I can't mention the name here. He didn't know. He thought that same Big Six are the people on our money that we use. It's not. So for me, you can't...
Wait, let me get this clear. You're saying that he thought it was the people standing around Nkrumah when he was declaring on the polo grounds, declaring
the independence.
Yes, that those people on the notes are the
Big Six.
Okay, I now get what you mean.
You understand? It's so confusing. It's not because he doesn't know where to find them. Where are the people who stood on the podium? Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had a legacy, and one legacy was that to make sure that the African is capable and Africa would unite. Today, we've heard before Nyerere died, he spoke about his regret for not having accepted when he said he thought he was doing like I'm doing now. People would think, oh, the woman is just talking too much. But when you have a passion and you believe in people and there's only one solution, that is all that it is, ownership. He said Pan-Africanism. He said Africa must unite because he knew that if Ghana did its own thing and we did not come together as a bloc, and we did not come together as a bloc and fight the imperial people and yet be able to get our economic power, we'll be where we are today.
Well, we fought the imperialists. Today we are in the clutches of our own politicians, and we are still not going anywhere.
Because we are small in our own way, and people, when you don't have the vision, the people who did not believe in him are the very people who have been governing this country. So clearly, they don't have the direction as to what he had in mind. Okay. Listen, this ownership thing and all the things I've just told you.
Right.
And you thought that even by saying government at your doorsteps meant that a new policy. These are all policies in place. If you don't have the development of the people at the center of every policy you make, if you don't care about the vulnerable, if you're not worried about the future of the youth and the future of the generation, but your own children, if you are being selfish, you end up with the country we have today called Ghana. This is not the initial understanding of what Ghana was. Ghana is where we are going to be now. You love Osagyefo, number 7. Simple matter.
All right. Nana Akosua, we're grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us for breakfast this holiday morning. Nana Akosua Frimpoma Sapon Nkrumah is flag bearer of the CPP, the Convention People's Party. And she joined us for a conversation this morning. We're going to take a bit of a breather. When we return, we have more conversations coming your way. The Affirmative Action Law now, with the president giving his assent to it. And we'll also be talking about the third day of the Democracy Hub's demonstrations. What is going to pan out today? How will things go? We'll bring you those details later on the show. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show, this holiday installment of the show. Now, in the wake of President Akufo-Addo's signing of the Affirmative Action Bill, or that act into law, we sit with former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, I'm talking about Otiko Afisa-Jaba, to actually discuss the impact, what we can expect of this landmark legislation. Of course, we know she's passionate about gender equality and other related matters. A very good morning to you, madam.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Good morning to your viewers, and to congratulate them on the commemoration of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our iconic leader, his birthday. That's why I'm in white. It's not only that we are celebrating his birthday, but reflecting on the legacy that he left for us.
Right.
And part of that legacy is independence, and the independence of women as well. Unfortunately, that has been left out until now.
Right.
So in celebration of the president's assent as well, on this auspicious day has made me really joyous. I am so happy. And when you are happy, you wear white.
It's reflective in what you're wearing.
Yeah.
We're also happy to have you. I think it's your first time in our studio, this new studio here, is it?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Thank you.
You've modernized it.
And I know for some members of my crew too, it's the first time they are seeing you physically. So
maybe.
Yes, it's really good to have you join the conversation. Now, I'd wanted to start from there, but you've already started on the Nkrumahist trajectory. So let's get right into it. This affirmative action bill has been with us for so long, it's even, should I say, shameful?
It is shameful.
But finally, we've got to the point where the president has put pen to paper. What for you does this mean in that, or on that road, that trajectory of seeking equality and even equity for women? Let's start from
Before I get there, I would like to thank the president and the current Minister for Gender, the technical committee, the Women's Coalition. 31st December, Mrs. Kunedu, she started the fight. Yes.
Nana Kunedu
Ajimai-Rawlings. And all the trailblazers who have worked on this for it to become law, to be an act today. I really want to appreciate all of them. And former ministers of gender and what have you, everybody has worked on it to a certain extent. I really want to say a big thank you. It is a landmark. It is a joyous and momentous. Actually, we have just hit history, and we are about to make history with the assent. Now that the affirmative action has been made law, we are going to make history. It's giving women the opportunity and the people of Ghana to understand that women also matter and that women's rights are human rights.
Do you think this has not been the position in the past with some bottlenecks? Do you think that has not been the position? I mean, I am sitting here, and even from school, way back in school, even before that, I was in my own little way, in my microcosm, pushing for things. I always point to some group I was in where women I sat down and I had been president of the group, and I wanted to take a look down the road. They couldn't trace the last time a woman had been president of that group. I pushed and pushed someone till the person did become, legitimately. But I'm saying that hasn't not always been there. Will it take this, and will it make any difference? How significant is this from that standpoint?
Yeah, it will make a difference. Even though we have the Constitution that says that we are all equal before the law and all of that, and we have not implemented. This is specific to the rights of women in terms of gender equality and equity. And by making it law, that means there has to be enforcement.
Okay.
And if you don't enforce it or you go against it, then there are some consequences attached to it. And so in addressing the injustices against women, this law seeks to right all the wrongs. And if we implement it properly, it will happen. I want to see a Ghana where my daughter will not be talking about the injustices, and my grandchildren who are female would feel that they are at parity with their counterparts who are males. That yes, it's talking about progressive. And so there must be a national consensus on all of this for all of us to agree that, look, Ghana has to accept that the issues of women are a national issue. And that when you have equity and equality and fairness for all in the society, then the society will progress. And we can build a better Ghana when we are all equal and there are equal opportunities. That is very key to this act.
When you look at the bill as assented to by the president, what is the most exciting aspect of it for you? I know you've been through the mill and you've taken a look at the bill. What excites you the most about the contents of this bill? I'm looking at the various, different parts of it. I mean, gender equity in Parliament, which some people have spoken of ad infinitum, in the judiciary, in the security services, in the public service. I mean, so many things. Allowances, equal pay for equal work. What excites you the most about this law?
One is the timelines.
Timeline?
Yes, that by 2026, we should get to 30%.
But looking at when we are assenting to it, how realistic
I will
is
get
that?
there. By 2028, we should get 35%. By 2030, when the world is also going to respond to the SDGs, we must get to parity. That is in 6 years. Look at how far we have come and how little we have accomplished.
Exactly.
And yet, it's speeding it up that in 6 years, by 2026, we should hit 30%. That means we must be serious. That is what excites. It's a challenge for all of us to put in the structures and what will help us to achieve that 30%. To put in all the effort, the commitment, the sacrifices to achieve the 35% by 2028, so that by 2030, we will be part of making history when we go out there in the global world to talk about how we have handled gender equity and gender equality. The other thing that excites me is the gender committee. There is a committee that is supposed to be set up to monitor the implementation of the act. All of this has been political talk and then the correctness of what we should do, making sure that the right things are done. But it is the implementation that will hit our commitment to realizing, to actualizing what we have put on paper. Talk cannot be cheap in this case. We have to put our money where our mouths are. And in it, there must be budgets from the Ministry of Finance and responsive budgeting to gender.
And you know that is where the devil always is. So you're talking about Section 4, which talks about establishment of the Gender Equity Committee.
Yes.
And then talks about the Gender Equity Committee consisting of, it goes on to mention, I know the NCC has a representative.
All
the ministry, so the chairperson is supposed to be a representative of the ministry, not below the rank of a director. It goes on and on. But you talk about funding, and of course the finance ministry will also come in. That is usually where the devil is. Typical example, the office of the special prosecutor. I mean, we can have all these fine institutions.
Yeah, that's why I talk about
funding derails them.
Yes.
Do you think this committee will actually have the wherewithal to thrive? Not just survive, thrive?
It will depend on the type of people who are selected, and it gives you the category of persons to be selected. And so the Minister for Gender and her team will have to be very, very serious about who they bring on board to be members of the committee so that they can have a plan of action for implementation. The plan of action, the strategy, is what will ensure the success, and then following it through and ensuring that the budgets of not only the Ministry of Finance but all the public sector organizations. Currently, when there is a budget, every ministry has a budget for gender issues, but they always use it for item 13 or for things that they didn't budget for, emergency things. So they just go and take what was meant for gender and utilize it. Because, you know, we've been belittling issues of women, and we've always put women at the last, like children and persons with disability. But this is saying that we must stop that. We must ensure, and then the committee will monitor to ensure that these things are being done. The monitoring, there must be a monitoring strategy as well. Because, you know, Ghana has a lot of laws. But the enforcement is not well done because there probably wasn't a monitoring strategy. Or if there was, it's not being followed. But now, this is a new dawn. And Ghana has no time, 6 years. Before you know it, look, it was January, we are going to Christmas. I was 2 years some time ago. Today I'm 62.
And I think we're even more behind because now we've got to another electoral cycle. Anything we're talking about, for example, bringing some parity in Parliament will not happen because we're already at the dawn of another election. That will mean we have to wait till the next general elections are nigh. Of course, policies can be shaped before then.
Start from
but what it means is that we'll not see anything in the immediate term,
not this year.
owing to how this has happened. The only time we can really see it would be in the next election, even if you're focusing there alone. I think in terms of the judiciary, it hasn't been bad at all. I mean, how many of the past 4 Chief Justices have not been? You have
Madam
Theodora
Wood,
exactly,
and the current lady.
Exactly.
3 of them. But I don't want to talk about the isolation.
Sofia Kufu.
Yes. It looks like it's breaking news when a woman is put in such a position.
I don't think necessarily, but all I'm trying to say is in the judiciary, that glass ceiling has been broken. It was broken a long time ago.
It has been cracked.
Even in Parliament, Justice Bamfordado, also there. In fact, from the Ghana Police Service, and then Parliament and some of these happenings there. There has been some semblance, scintilla of it, with some institutions faring better than others. I feel the judiciary has fared better than the other arms of government.
A little bit, yes, I agree.
But there's still more work to be done. But when you look at the law in its current form, are there any shortfalls still? Because now, Mr. President has given us assent to it, but are there still any loopholes that you would have wanted us to plug even before we got to this point?
No law is perfect. And this was watered down.
So let me say glaring loopholes.
This was watered down for national consensus to converge on it. The glaring loophole is the lack of the bite, like quotas. It's giving the political parties a choice. Educate them in your safe constituencies, give roles to women. The EC should ensure that there's gender equity and all of that. But in some other dispensations like Rwanda, there is a quota system where specific seats are specific to gender. Only women or only the youth or only persons with disability can vote or be voted for or contest. And those areas ensure that immediately X number of women or youth or persons with disability will be in Parliament. And so for me, that is a weakness of it. And the fact that it is progressive, that means it will take time. However, they put a ceiling that by 2030, we should be able to meet these things. And that means, that's what I said, we have to be serious and act with a lot of commitment and sacrifice. And to ensure that the structures in terms of like the private sector, the public sector, where women work, they must be friendly to a woman who has just come back from maternity leave. So those structures must be better organized and put in place to ensure that this is done. But is it compulsory that every organization must have a creche? I don't see it in it. But if you have a creche, and I live in, let's say, Tema, and working at the ministries, I can bring my child there, and I feel good about it. Some organizations feel that, oh, we shouldn't employ women because they will get pregnant. Master, if some woman didn't get pregnant, will you be there to even have an organization? So, if you don't want the things that occur, the negatives, when a woman gets pregnant, I don't think it's a negative. It's a blessing to have a child. Then you must have a creche. And the promotional things that happen for women must not be curtailed because the person is a woman. Just because you are a woman, you should not be belittled, or your promotion or your advancement should not be handled differently or truncated to your disadvantage.
I agree with you, especially on the point of having areas where when women, even when they are pregnant, at some point they can go and just relax for a bit before they return to their work.
The 3 months leave.
And you go to other jurisdictions, they even have paternity leave.
Yes.
But here's something I'm sure you know, or I don't know whether it will come as a shock to you. I've interacted with some women in top corporations, even firms, and it is women who also perpetrate that. Women will say, I don't want a woman for this role or these positions because she's likely to get pregnant. And women, not men, women.
Yes.
I don't know whether you encounter that.
I've encountered a lot of opposition.
I've been very surprised by some of
when I was a women's organizer.
When you blame, you should also blame women.
When I was a women's organizer, I was looking for like the safe seats, ensuring that we dedicate some safe seats to women. Some people, including women, went on demonstration against me for proposing that. That is because they have not understood enough what we expect from them. You know, that is why this bill, part of it too, is the education in terms of the implementation, to sensitize and have a different mindset. The way that we've been governing in Ghana will change if we implement this act properly.
Okay. When you look at Section 20, from one, it talks about the political parties and representation of women, what they should do. But when you get to 4, it's interesting. The Electoral Commission shall ensure that a political party in respect of A, positions at the national, regional, and district levels of the party, B, the membership of subcommittees of a political party, and C, election as parliamentary candidates of the party, progressively attains gender equity and assignments available. It goes on and on. That was exactly what you were talking about. Progressively ensures or attains gender equity. The EC to ensure this for the political parties. That aspect of it got me scratching my head.
There are loose ends there. Yeah, because really, the EC cannot dictate to any party.
I found that portion very curious.
But what it can do, and in other dispensations they do, is to say that when you are presenting your candidates, like the presidential, then you must have gender equity in the parliamentary. You understand? So in some dispensations, it is part of the law. But like I said, this particular bill, the bite is not there because we needed to have a national consensus. Some of the things, because some men have insecurities. And they are afraid that when you put women in leadership, they will take their seats.
Right.
And because we are already at 275 seats, it will be difficult for a small country like Ghana to extend.
Right.
We had the window of opportunity when we were increasing the numbers by 25 or 30 under Afarijan, and then there was I think under the other lady.
Charlotte.
Yes. That was when we should have said that those seats, and I fought for that, it was not taken, for those seats to be given to just women, persons with disability, and the youth. By now, we would have hit a larger number if we had done that. But because we didn't...
We've come far, 100 and something. And
but Master, out of 275, you only have 40. And during the primaries, quite a number lost. And they might still lose again during the general elections.
That's
so
true.
you move forward, and then you take some steps
And even
backwards.
among the DCs and MCs, the last time Mr. President was acting, some people feel aggrieved that. I always say that, well, there must be the case of, is the person doing the work? That is there.
Yeah.
But of course, some also said that there are very few women in the first place, and you are still sucking some of some of the women.
Okay, there are few women in terms of representation.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
But and of the few, some have also received the sack. But when you look at this entire setup, which brings me to my next one, there have been quite a number of obstacles. You've weathered the storm. At the grassroots, how will this impact women? Because we can sit here in the studio and talk about it and maybe equal pay for equal work and all of that. But at the very grassroots, how will this impact women?
There's a lot of work to be done there. And the media will have to come in so that in the different languages, we can send the sensitization down. Because currently, the sensitization is only up amongst those who can read, who are educated, who are in Accra, and that sort of thing. But the women in the rural parts of Ghana don't have that. And for me, that is critical, because they are the masses. For them to understand this Affirmative Action Act should become a Bible for all of us, to understand it, to know it. You know, when we were doing Let Your Girl Child Go to School, that type of sensitization, so that everybody, even the leaves and the birds, are singing it about gender equality, gender equity. Let's respect each other. Let's ensure that every girl child is in school and that leadership is for all of us. We must keep drumming it in and drumming it in at the local level. And that will come in the implementation plan, where all NCC, information services, the media, the traditional rulers, everybody will be involved. This is a collective act of audacity to bring hope to Ghana. The development of the woman, the success of the woman, the involvement of the woman in leadership is what is going to change Ghana. And it will affect our governance, because you will have more women in all the positions, whether it is the, how do you call it, Council of, the Traditional Council, National Council, House of Chiefs, whether it's the committee, the larger one, for the government, the ones that watch over, what's the name of it? The man from Ejisu is the leader, the chief.
Is it not the National House of Chiefs?
Yeah, no, beyond the National House, the one for the whole government, the country. Those who advise the government.
Council of State, is
yes,
that what you're
Council of State.
Right.
All those bodies are to be equitable. There should be parity. They should
so there as well. But you know, they vote on a regional basis. So
they should prepare the women. And nobody should belittle women and say that they are not there. That type of information, you know, it really makes me cringe. And it defeats the purpose of a bill like this. The women are more than the men. How can you say they are not there? And look, the men have been trying and they are not succeeding. We need to get the women out of the kitchen. Being women who are there just at the whims and caprices of children and husbands. And my child's education. And my husband wants to be a manager. Every day is my child, my husband. How about what I, the woman, also wants? Your mother had dreams. She was born with a vision. But she would spend all her life going after you, your homework, making sure that you are okay. But nobody makes sure that the woman is okay. The implementation of this bill is to make sure that the woman too is okay and capable to be an equal partner of development.
On that point of capacity or capability, you said something earlier. It's good you've reminded me, because I wanted to go there. Before Obama got the nod from the Democrats and became president, he had to go toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton. At least they had got to that level. Now we have Kamala Harris, who, though, again, through some initiative, interesting initiative, Joe Biden steps aside and says, Kamala, go. And she is a potential president of the United States. Should we get to the point where maybe even writing on some of the pointers in this law, say that if you are fielding a presidential candidate, it's either the presidential candidate is female, or if the candidate is male, the running mate maybe should be female. Because if you look at even this election we're going into, it's predominantly male.
Yes.
Should we get to that point?
Well, I'm very excited about what's happening in America. And I'm hoping that it will happen in Ghana too, sooner than later. Whatever will give us the chance for women to come into leadership is good. It doesn't matter how we get there. It's how we manage how we get there, for me. That is important.
Okay.
And so whether you are riding on this coat or that coat, look, we must break down the glass ceiling. It's not just the crack, break it down and break down the doors and make sure that if the seat is not there, you take your own seat. You bring up our girls and our sons to understand that we are equal, not that the boy, there's such a male-dominant society. We must change that attitude. It's an archaic way. The world is changing and Ghana must wake up to that.
I think something you'd be
happy
happy
that we are
about,
all
though,
equal.
as far as affirmative action or reverse discrimination is concerned, you know, our schools back then, affirmative action took over a long time ago in especially the tertiary institutions. And now in most of them that you go to, there are more females
definitely, yes,
actually
yes.
than males. So I'm sure that's something you definitely.
Oh yes, I've been told that even at the basic and even now the secondary is also getting to that point of parity. And we had to do a lot of adjustments, especially at the tertiary level, to ensure it. At the basic, there was a whole push for sending your girl child to school, sometimes at the tertiary level, reducing the grades for the women and all of that, the young girls. So it's all good. And the girls and the boys must take advantage of this. That, look, this is our time to shape this generation for the future, to ensure that Ghana is a gender equitable society where your daughter, your mom, your wife, not just about somebody else's wife, but all the wives and daughters have equal treatment. Don't think that if you treat somebody's wife badly, somebody will treat your wife better. We must all be treated equally, no discrimination. And we must ensure that when we come to the table, the women are not behind. They sit in front with the men. And the women must feel confident. So we must train our daughters to believe in themselves, that I am okay. This notion that if you are a woman, you are weak, you are not good, you are not capable, you are stupid, belittling women, you know, must stop. Is your mother stupid? Is your mother stupid? I'm asking you a personal question.
I don't think that's even a question to answer.
But that is what is happening. Why would you treat somebody else's wife or mother as if they are stupid? Why wouldn't you involve them? Why would you, just a minute, why would you even be violent against a woman? This bill addresses it. Violence against women is violence against Ghana.
Okay, before...
There is a constitution that says that we shouldn't do that, and the law must be enforced.
Before we get into the private sector, because it appears, I mean, we've spoken a lot and it feeds into the public sector. Definitely. How about the private sector? Some portion of the law talks about private sector companies and even tax incentives they will get if they do X, Y, and Z. But before we get there, I've seen a message from the PRO, the spokesperson of the Education Ministry, Kwesi Kwarteng. He says, Ghana has attained gender parity at the senior high level. That's what he shared. And of course, he's watching the conversation now.
Yeah.
Kwesi, good morning.
So that means all the three levels are now okay.
Yes, I mean, what I did know of was tertiary. Tertiary in most places.
Oh, yeah. And
most of the institutions
the basic.
have.
And so at all the three levels, we are okay. But it's still not enough. The books that we use in the educational sector, especially the primary school, Kofi Niyama, Ama is always sweeping and fetching water. What is that? What is that? Why can't Kofi also fetch water?
Representations as well.
In the pictorial things, the stories must show the new woman, the girl that we are bringing up, your daughter and mine, that in this Ghana, she can not only be the girl's prefect, she can be the school prefect. She can play with a computer. Kofi should be seen sweeping, and daddy must set a good example in the home. The home and the school are where early socialization starts. And that is important for the implementation of this bill. That in the home and in the schools, the structures that shape the minds of our young people must also include pictures and role models that the girls can see. If I can see myself somewhere, I'll be interested in also trying to be aspiring to that role.
Indeed.
But if every day, mommy is sweeping, Kosia too is sweeping, so I'm going to end up as a cleaner. That's why Ghana is so dirty. We can have women in leadership who will clean up because we're very good at cleaning the home.
I mean, there are myriad examples of that. Coco Golf, who nowadays...
the tennis.
Walks tennis and does a whole lot. She grew up watching Serena Williams and all of that. So and you know, Serena is probably the first black woman who, in that space, really turned heads. Imagine if Serena hadn't done it. Maybe not too many black young girls would be thinking, I can also be at the summit.
You hit it on the nail. Yes,
tennis.
I agree with you.
But let's talk about, like I said, the private sector. Because there too, there's a lot. A few years ago, even the BBC had its own challenges with equal pay for equal work and a whole lot. The systems are still improving. Is this law fit for purpose as far as private enterprise is concerned, and the purported incentives they are being given? Briefly on that.
Yes. To a certain extent, yes, because it encourages you that if you are able to increase the number of women, make sure that your organization is gender friendly, then tax waivers will be given to you. You'll be given some concessions when there are contracts and things like that. And so that should encourage. But the monitoring must come in to ensure that this is done. We must have data that right now, where we are, the baseline, this is what we have, so that you can measure. The measuring is also continuous. And Parliament must also have that accountability, so that when people or these organizations are not meeting the indicators, then they can be whipped into line. And then there must be enforcement. If we are saying that there should be creches and that women who are going on maternity leave, their promotions should not be affected, you should know how many women who are in that category. And if they are not promoted, why have they not been promoted? And the TUC also has a role. The Ministry of Employment and Labor also has a role in it to check all these things, to ensure that we are going to make history. It's not about just talking. You must put your money where your mouth is. You must be serious about this change that we are seeking. And when the private sector owns it and the public sector owns it, why wouldn't we meet those targets that we are saying we need to meet by that time? But somebody must be checking, and that is the Gender Equity Committee, to check and ensure that these things work. And then, even in the buildings, I know that with Ministry of Defense, some of the army places, like I don't know whether they've changed it, the Tamale Airport, for instance, there was a part of it where the washrooms are designed, both men and women have to use the washrooms at the military base. But you know, a woman can have her menstruation and all of that. She needs some privacy. The same thing with the schools. So those things must be put in the private sector. Sometimes, because of funding issues, they are not able to put in all the mechanisms that are friendly for the development of gender equity. But we must be able to support them to do that and encourage them to do it. And if you are able to put those things in place, then you can look at the punitive measures. But if you don't support them to achieve it, it will not happen. That is why I say this is national consensus, a collective action by everybody, boys and girls, men and women, traditional rulers, the media, the private sector, public, everybody, including political will. Political will has been brought to bear with the parliamentarians passing it, and then the president assenting it. Now, it is left with the rest of us. And men and women and boys and girls respecting each other and understanding that we all have red blood. My sex does not make me weaker or I'm less of a human being than you are. You don't have to eat better than me. And you shouldn't be using, I married you, so you are doing me a favor. We are doing each other a favor. I'm giving you chop money, so you have to quota to me. But the work I am doing in the house, are you paying me for it? There's unpaid work. I'm bringing your children, our children up.
Before we go, just one question in two parts. Are there any foreseeable challenges, in the near future as far as rolling this out is concerned? And as former gender minister, I just want you to box them together in about a minute and a half, because our time is actually up.
It will be difficult to do it in a minute and a half.
What advice would you give government in terms of rolling this out even from today, from now?
All right, let's take the challenges first. The mindset of the people. We are a parochial society, male-dominant society. And that has been pushed into our heads for so long. That idea that the man is the head, the man is the leader, the man is the best, the man is everything, that must change. That is a huge challenge. And it will take a lot of sensitization to change it. And government and all the government institutions and the media must work on that to change our mindsets, that it is okay for a woman to be a leader, and that a woman too is just as equal as a man, and that the man is not better because of his testosterone. A woman is just as good as a man, given equal opportunities.
Right.
That is the biggest challenge. The other part of it is, like you said, the rural people, getting the message down, so that it's not only in Accra and the cities and people who can read, but everywhere. People must understand it. And then the resources, making sure that your institution like this is friendly. and that you are able to put in the structures for women who are coming back from maternity leave and all of that. In the area of health, to ensure that maternal mortality is reduced and anemia and all, even this issue of about sanitary towels, removing the tax and making sure that we make them in Ghana, which will make it more affordable, and making sure that in the schools, girls have changing rooms and what have you. Within, stop looking at your watch, within the sphere, because I was told that I had 45 minutes, within the sphere of the government, and issues of women should not be rushed, please. This is part of my problem with this country, and you are doing it to me. The issues of politics are not...
Have you checked the time?
Yes, I checked it. We didn't start at 9. We started about 10 minutes past 9, and it's now 9:41. So we have not done 45 minutes.
We're within the frame.
Until stop looking at your watch. Don't rush me. Look, we have worked hard to get to this point, and there is no going back. We, all of us, must change our attitude about issues concerning women. It is not a walk in the park, let me tell you. The government has come this far by assenting it, making sure that Parliament too has passed it and all of that. But the government, the political will to ensure that the different pieces, the sectors, are also working, like appointments, for example. You know that the president has the 30% appointments for assemblies. Why can't that 30% be given to just women, youth, and persons with disability? Because already, it's less, what we have in the assemblies is less than 6%. So the president in his appointment, and I'm making this a direct appeal to the president, that next time he's appointing, assembly members, that 30% should just be given to women, the youth, and persons with disability. And other government appointees like the MMDCs, DCs, whatever appointments that are being made in the public sector, equity must come in. And nobody must say that there are no women available. That is what the government, and then the budget.
Otiko.
The budget must also include gender-responsive budgeting and ensure, the Ministry of Finance must ensure that whatever amount each ministry or each public sector office is saying that they are going to put there for gender, they should put it there. The last thing I want to say is that the girl child, I want her to dream that she is the best thing that ever happened to Ghana, and that she has an equal right to be a leader, to help this country to develop, to achieve greatness. That girl child today must be well educated and prepared for tomorrow. Let no man go and impregnate her. And let no girl let some man or boy impregnate you. Because you are special. You are a queen. You are a princess. You must have values and integrity. And you must understand that without you, there will be no Ghana. Every boy or girl born in this country was born by some woman. And we are preparing these women for that responsibility.
Otiko, thank you very much for your time with us this morning. She is former Minister, Gender, Children and Social Protection. Of course, we've been deliberating on the Affirmative Action Law and what it means for all of us, especially our women and our girl children. We'll be right back on the AM show. There's still one last belt to go, and then we can call it another installment of the show. We'll be right back. And what a beautiful way to cap off our conversations this morning by telling you about the Ghana Garden and Flower Show. It's in its 12th year, and this annual event celebrates and promotes Ghana's rich flora and fauna while highlighting the potential of floriculture, horticulture, and agriculture generally for national development. The theme this year is Greenovation. Green the nation, feed the nation, grow the nation. And joining me for a conversation on that is Sharon K. Enim. She is Marketing Communications Manager of Stratcom Africa. Sharon, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit about Greenovation and the theme for this year. 12th installment. It's been quite a journey. Tell us about it.
So Greenovation for this year, we are looking at innovative and creative approaches that we can handle horticulture, floriculture, to be able to address global challenges that have to do with climate change, environmental degradation, and food insecurity. So by greennovation, we are combining green and innovation. And we are teaching, we are communicating, and we have experts around teaching us innovative ways we can green our nation, feed our nation, and grow our nation, which is contributing to national development.
I see. When is it happening?
It's happening on 22nd. We actually started yesterday. We had a grand opening yesterday, and it's running from 22nd to the 29th. So this
1 week.
Yes, so Sunday to Sunday. So we are there today throughout the week until next Sunday at the Ifwa Sutherland Children's Park from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day.
9 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day, 22nd to 29th.
Sorry, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 22nd to 29th.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yes.
And in terms of the detail of the activities, what can those who will pass through, what can they expect?
Yes, so for the 8 days, we are going to have an exhibition, which is a wide variety of plants, flowers, gardening equipment, seedlings, all sorts of things you need to start
What
the
types
garden.
of seedlings? Tell us. Give us
Pepper, tomato, anything you can plant at home. Because this year, what we're actually promoting is for people to do home gardening. Grow your own food at home. And that's something that we have master classes on. The master classes are going to teach you how to do urban gardening. This is very important because you realize people complain, I have no space at home, but you can garden or grow in a very small place. Like if you can even have a vertical wall where you're growing things on a wall.
Right.
And then we're going to teach irrigation because we know people have limited water. You may not be able to water. We are teaching all that. And then we are having a conference which is teaching how to for young people, green entrepreneurship. We are showcasing some businesses. We are sharing success stories of what people are doing in the green space to motivate the next generation of green entrepreneurs because there's so much potential in floriculture, horticulture, and agriculture that as a country we can harness to enhance the livelihood of young people in the country. So that's one thing we are having. And we're having little green fingers. It's very important because that's for children.
Right.
And you know, they are the next generation and the next future leaders, and it's important for us to instill in them the love for greening and gardening at such a young age, so they grow up knowing that it's important for you to conserve your environment. We have a drama night, we have a music night, and we have the Ifwa Sutherland book stroll. So these are some of the activities that are all going throughout this 8-day period.
In terms of safeguarding our environment with the ravages of Galamsey and everything, there couldn't be a better time than now.
Exactly.
But since you talk about greennovation, then maybe green entrepreneurship will be greenpreneurship.
Yes, greenpreneurship.
And greenpreneurs. Free consultancy for you guys. So tell me, moving forward over the next few days, you're expecting participants. I don't know how rewarding this has been, organizing this over the years, but speak to our viewers on why they should actually come and participate in this event.
Okay, so I'll just touch.
Those will be your final words.
Yes, I'll just chat briefly on how rewarding it has been. I mean, we have seen businesses. It's a great business platform. It's for networking and also helps our businesses in the industries get a wide access to the market because there are clients and there are people coming in, buying, and using these plants at home. So we are very excited about this opportunity. Our last words, we want to thank our sponsors and everybody who has been supportive throughout this journey. We look forward to 8 days of fun, learning, an opportunity for everybody to come buy a plant, nurture it to benefit our environment, and also to fight climate change.
Thank you very much for joining the conversation,
Thank you
Sharon.
for having me.
And she is from Stratcom Africa, joining us talk all about this latest event. Well, if you'd like to participate, of course, it is between yesterday, it started yesterday, ends on the 29th, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And that's how we cap off our show this morning, the AM show as we call it. My name is Benjamin Akapo. But don't you go far, because shortly I'll be sharing with you my, should I say the news? Yeah, Joy News Desk is up next. Do stay. We'll be right back with that.